Hey everyone, I'm here with Christopher Badell from Greater Than Games, creators of the infamous Sentinels of the Multiverse card game.
Yes, that's us. That's my baby. We made that in 2011. Yeah.
It's come quite a far way since then. You guys are still putting out content for the card game itself.
We're putting out the final expansion for the Sentinels of the Multiverse card game around the end of this year. The Oblivion expansion will be ending the multiverse, and that will be the end of the card game.
Okay, but it's not the end of Sentinel Comics itself.
That's
because
correct.
You announced that there's going to be an RPG, which it seems like it's perfect for.
Yeah, no, we've been working that for a few years now. We have assembled a super design team to make this game, which is appropriate. Cam Banks, Dave Chalker, and Philippe Ménard and I have been working on this game for several years now, and we've got a great system for it. It's a really cool way of playing it, and a lot of great story and stuff that we put into it. And we are right now both at Gen Con and also on our web store, and you can even ask for it at your friendly local gaming store. We have a starter kit for the Sentinel Comics role-playing game, and that starter kit includes a number of booklets that takes you through the process of the game, teaches you the game, and all that sort of stuff. And then we will be kickstarting it early next year. And what we'll be kickstarting is the core rulebook that is actually the whole thing, as well as several other books that I don't want to talk too much about because there's a lot of cool
There'll probably be stretch goals and stuff like that.
There's some stretch goals, and there's some things that will be available right from day one that are still like pretty cool things. So.
Gotcha. And the starter kit, I believe, was $30. I saw.
Oh my goodness, it's either $19.95 or $29.95. Listen, I make games. I think it's $19.95, but I could be wrong.
Check your store or their website for details.
Yeah.
So what makes the Sentinel Comics RPG? Because at this point, there are a lot of superhero RPGs. But obviously, if you're a fan of Sentinels of the Multiverse, you're going to probably see a lot of familiar characters and just build out that setting. But for someone that may have only casually kind of heard of Sentinels of the Multiverse, what do you guys have that's going to pull those people in?
So the thing that made Sentinels of the Multiverse a product that so many people really enjoyed was that it really captured the feeling of being a hero. When you're playing the card game, the thing that we shot for from the beginning, and still the number one feedback we get is, oh my gosh, I love the game. I love that when I'm playing the game, I feel like a superhero. And that's what we wanted to capture in the RPG as well, that it is a game about being a hero. A big question I've gotten a bunch of this show is there rules for playing as the villain? Like, can we play like a team of villains? And I'm like, look, there are RPGs that are for that, and we might later do something later down the road, but the Sentinel Comics role-playing game is a game about being a hero, and everything you do is going to represent that. And that each of the characters, and each of the way you even build a character in character creation, which the starter kit doesn't have any character creation, it has pre-gens, but the core rulebook has an extensive section about character creation. And with that whole process, whenever you're making a hero, everything hinges on your powers, your qualities, your abilities, and your principles. And those are both your strengths and also your weaknesses. And it creates this whole feeling of the fact that your hero is like this active player in a story, and the team of heroes, a group of heroes, is this group that works well together, and the interactions between the heroes is where a lot of the story is going to come from. And so that's a big part of it. It's a role-playing game that's not a super crunchy role-playing game. It's a very story-driven role-playing game, and in that game, the GM is of course a storytelling position, but also all the players are equally important in the telling of the story. The things they do, both the good things they do and also like the mistakes they make and the negative things that happen, are parts of the storytelling that will come from the players. So that's a big part of it. Gotcha.
Now, this might be a little bit in the mechanics, but dice, is it custom dice, or is it your standard dice, or?
It's totally standard dice. You use dice sizes D4, sizes 4-sided dice through 12-sided dice. So no D20s. And everything you do, I'm gonna show you these papers, which is great for this video over here. Yeah. But everything you do on your character sheet, these are the.
Also, it's almost like your character sheet is a comic, right, basically.
Right. Well, and so a character sheet really is just this page, and this page is the front of the character sheet and the back of the character sheet. In the starter kit, there will be 6 booklets, and these 6 booklets, there'll be 13 booklets, but 6 of those booklets, yeah, there you go, and 6 of these booklets are character sheet booklets, and those character booklets are the shows who the character is, and then this is page 1 of the character sheet. This side of the booklet just says, hey, here's what all these things are. Yep. So it's a bit of explanation. This is page 2 of the character sheet, and this is over here like, hey, here's what all these things are. Got it. And then the last couple of pages are, hey, here's the rest of the rules. Here's everything you need to know as a player. It tells you how to do all the things. And so
I assume there's probably going to be an additional booklet for, hey, if you're running the game.
Yep.
So if you're playing the game, this is all you need.
This is all you need.
If your friend buys a kit, he just slides you that, and for 5 minutes you read over it, and then you're ready to go.
So I'll get back into the mechanics for a second, but let me talk about these booklets. In this starter kit, there's 13 booklets, and the first booklet is one called the Gameplay Guide, and that is going to be like a core rulebook sort of booklet, and that is going to show you, like, it gets in depth, so that when you're reading this, you're like, wait a minute, I don't understand how this is explained.
You can go into the
Gameplay Guide, it gives you more in depth, and it also has a lot of GM advice in there, both how to do the things mechanically, but also how to like do some GMing stuff, some GM tips and advice. Great. So then, that is the one booklet. Then you have these 6 booklets, which are the character booklets, and those are for the players. Then you have 6 more booklets, and those are issues, and these really look like comic books.
Yeah.
And these issues are the story. You're going to play through 6 issues, starting with issue 1. And going through each of the other issues to these issues are for the GM only. Nobody else should be looking at this stuff, and it tells the backstory of what you're about to do. It explains what happens in all the different issues, and it gives you a bunch of information. It gives you art that you can show the players as they're playing. It gives you stat blocks for the villains, and this is written to really hold the hand of a new GM. If you're an experienced GM, great, you're going to tear through this, no problem. But if you're a new GM, you can just read through this. And it's a very prep-light system. It is a very easy-to-run system that's going to be a lot of fun because I want to be able to help a lot of new GMs jump into the system feet first and be in good shape. So
and this, I don't know if you guys have thought it. Is this the plan going forward? Is to do any published adventures in a comic book format style with like issues and this sort of style?
Absolutely. Not only that, not only public adventures, with published adventures, but anytime you play a session of the Sentinel Comics role-playing game, you're playing an issue. And that's not just like okay, we're using this word. That actually means something because character advancement is done that every time you play a session, you record that session in a section called back issues on your character sheet. You give it a name and a number, a name and an issue number, and that's one of your back issues. When you have 6 back issues, you collect those into a collection, a collected trade, and that is character advancement. This is not just a superhero role-playing game. This is a comic book role-playing game.
Got it.
And the experience of your character is collected in issues. So.
Yeah, you definitely get that feel because I love the way it's you're playing a comic book basically.
Right.
It even shows with the published adventure or the event the included adventure.
And we're going to be doing a lot of with the 6 issues that are in the starter kit. There you play through issue 1, you play through issue 2, and then issue 3, 4, and 5 don't happen in a specific order. At the end of issue 2, your heroes have some choices about like, hey, there's these things and these things. What do you want to deal with? And you're going to play issues 3, 4, and 5, but you pick what order they happen in.
Got it.
And the things you do and the order that you do them in make changes based that will affect what will happen in the last issue. So it's an exciting thing we're doing here. And so that's what the starter kit is the 6 issues, the 6 booklets, and then the one gameplay guide.
Now, how long? So I know you were saying each issue is like one gameplay session, but are the individual issue, the actual booklet issues, is this designed to be one sit-down play?
Right.
Like basically 3 to 4 hours right here.
This is about 2.5. Yeah, This is about 2 to 3 hours worth of content right here. And so that's the intent of that.
So it is for one night, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Absolutely. And issue 1 is like, hey, here's a super easy, super straightforward fight, so we can introduce combat. And then here's a more complicated thing with some extra challenges on the side. And then issue 2 has some scenes with some other different weird things, and like each issue is going to teach you how to play the game as a player, but also how to GM, not just this game, but how to GM in general. Like it's going to give you some, the further along you get in the issues, the less hand-holding we do, and the more like, hey GM, fly and be free. So that's something we wanted to bring up. It's very important to all of us who are creating the game that we're like, hey, we want to establish some best practices for players and GMs alike.
Right. Now,
so
once you finish the included issues, is there anything in there to kind of keep people carried? Because when did you say when the Kickstarter you guys are
Kickstarter is going to be in the spring next year.
Okay, so imagine spring, and then it'll probably take a few months after that whenever it is for fulfillment. So it could be a while. I'm assuming there's going to be information in the starter kit to how to keep playing these characters or build your own stories.
Sure. At the end of the starter kit, at the end of the 6th issue, it says, hey, great, here are some possible directions your characters go. Here are ways that you can do this on your own. Make up your own adventures. You've seen now how minions work, and you've seen how villains work, and you know how these things work, GM, and the players have learned these things. You've got the gameplay guide. Between the gameplay guide and all the stuff you've done, you can go out and make your own stuff, and you're ready to go. Like, you have a ton of content. The starter kit really gives you so much of what's going on with the world of Sentinel Comics. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, are you demoing that here at Gen Con?
Yeah, we do have demos of it here at the show. All of the demos are ticketed demos that we did in advance because it has to be run by one of us.
Someone that's played the game. What
Right.
I was going to ask is, what have you gotten? What's the general feedback you've gotten from the players?
Oh, yeah.
I assume probably really well.
People are really loving it. Actually, Dave Chalker just walked by, and he's one of the designers. He was just running a session, and Dave was telling me yesterday he was running a session, but also a friend of ours named Mary Rose was running a session next to him, and Dave is the lead designer on the game. He knows it inside and out. He's like the best person for this.
The books or anything.
Right, he's running a perfect game, and he's running it, and people are really enjoying it. At the other table next to him is Mary Rose, who's 16 years old, and she knows the system because she read it in advance, and she's running this game, and people are yelling and laughing and jumping up out of their seats. And it's like, listen, Dave and I, when we run this game, it's going to go like perfectly because we know it inside and out. But when Mary Rose, our friend who's 16, is running this game, and she's getting that same and even better reactions out of the table, you know the system's doing something right.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, not to take away, she's a very good GM, so... But anyway, so in this system, everything you do with your heroes, each hero has powers, qualities, and a status. And this is from the status is where we get the name of the game system. In that your health goes from your green zone in which you're doing fine, your yellow zone in which you're a little hurt, and the red zone in which you're really hurt, and if you get all the way through all of that, then you are out. And so green, yellow, red, out, it's the gyro system. And it's good for like a superhero system. Yeah. So anyway, with that in mind, whenever you do anything, you're going to take a die, and each of your powers and qualities have a die size associated with them. You're going to take a die from your powers, a die from your qualities, and a die from your status. Roll those 3 die and take the mid result. So if I'm like, okay, I am the hero Legacy, and I am going to try to run up this hill and tear a hole in the side of an iron fortress, I'm going to use my power of strength. My power of strength has a D10 associated with it. So I grab it, move it. I'm going to turn back 1 page here. And I'm going to throw those on the ground. Those are fine. They go there. So I take my power of strength, which has a D10. And because I'm using strength to tear a hole in this iron wall. And I take my quality of leadership, which has a D10, because I'm leading the charge. That's the quality there. And I'm in the green zone, so I'm going to take my D6. So I take my 2 D10s and 1 D6, and I roll them. And I roll a 4, a 5, and an 8. So my 5 is my mid result, so 5 is...
Okay, so it's not adding them together, it's whatever the median result of the die is.
Absolutely, yeah. And then there are other abilities.
Now, that leadership, how is that the qualities, how is that determined? Is it your choosing?
This is during character creation.
Okay.
Right. So the pre-generated characters, the canon characters, we have all determined that, and we create all the canon characters going through the character creation system that will be in the core rulebook when that comes out in the spring. So it's not like we're like, we'll just cheat these things together. These are made in the same way. So when you make your own custom heroes in the world of Sentinel Comics, they are just as capable, just as strong as the ones that we made for the world of Sentinels the Multiverse. Like, you are making full-fledged heroes. You're not making rookie initiate heroes, unless that's part of your story and you can build that into your character.
Gotcha.
So.
Well, what I was asking is, determining which quality, is that based on how you're doing the action? Okay.
You pick.
So based on narrative-wise, how you're doing it.
You describe your action and then pick your power and your quality and the status die that relates to the thing that you described that you're doing.
Okay.
And so, and then you roll those 3 things, you take them in. Now, you have all these different abilities that let you do things like, hey, if you are, Legacy has a principle of the hero that if he's overcoming in a situation in which innocent people are in immediate danger, he uses his max die instead of his mid die.
Oh, that's cool.
Right, so there's things that mess with that. And as you get down into the yellow zone and the red zone, you get stronger and more desperate abilities, because this is kind of the way you solve the problem of hey, at the beginning of the fight, you don't bring out your biggest, baddest weapon. You have to wait for the action gets to a point that you can actually use that. So.
Okay, so just to give us a little bit of an example of what kind of variety there is, could you go through the 6 heroes that are in picking up the ones on the floor? And just a brief synopsis of, especially for those that are not familiar with Sentinel, so they have an idea of what type of characters they are. Right.
So the starter kit is coming with characters that are canon from the world of Sentinel Comics, and those characters are the hero team, the Freedom 5, and their former intern Unity. And so anybody that is familiar with the world of Sentinels the Multiverse probably knows these characters. However, if you're new to it, it's not a problem because you're going to recognize these characters by their archetypes. Yeah. As we talked about Legacy, we have the character Legacy, who is a team leader. He's strong, he can fly, but the thing that he is known for is his leadership. He's a very strong and stalwart leader of the team, and so that is who he is as a character. Then we have, on the Freedom 5, we have the character Wraith. She's an urban rogue that uses stealth and gadgets to fight crime. She's good with throwing knives. Yep, let me turn right here. We've got the character Absolute Zero. Absolute Zero is a guy in a cryo suit whose core temperature is at 0 Kelvin. And as a result, he can do interesting things with cold powers. He can do blasts of cold, but he can also like absorb cold energy and use that.
Right.
So we've got Tachyon. Tachyon is a super speed scientist. She thinks even quicker than she runs, and she can run faster than the speed of light. So she is brilliant and also very fast, but she can run fast enough to actually endanger herself if she's not careful.
Right.
We've got Bunker. Bunker's a guy in a big metal suit that shoots guns, and actually this version of Bunker is a very cool one. He's kind of evolved a bit from the card game era. He has a modular suit that changes from different modes, and he also has this really cool gun called the Riot Cannon that is modular as well, that he can use as much as a tool as it is a weapon. And then, as I mentioned, their intern Unity. Unity is a plucky young technopath that makes robots with her brain. So,
awesome.
I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, very much. So one last question.
Sure.
So we talked about that how you're running demos here and that the pack can be good. What have you been able to determine how many of the players are previous Sentinels fans versus brand new?
No, so I'll tell you, the vast majority of the demos that I'm running here are from established Sentinels fans because, like I said, they're ticketed demos. We put them up in advance, and they sold out like the day that we put them up. So it was the people that were waiting and watching for it, which I appreciate, and that's great. However, I have run tons of demos. I've gone to a lot of tiny cons because I love Gen Con. Gen Con's amazing, but I also really like doing playtesting at really small cons because at small cons where there's like a couple hundred people, like I can go through some playtesting and hit like everybody at the convention. And the advantage there is that I can playtest the game. I playtested it with people who have never heard of Sentinels. I've playtested the game with people who have played Sentinels in the Multiverse and did not like it, but were willing to play the RPG and enjoyed it.
Nice.
I also played it with a couple. I played it with a bunch of people. There was one couple that I remember in particular that had never heard of Sentinels, had never played a role-playing game, didn't know anything about any of that, and were like, let's try this out.
Yeah, sure.
And they loved it, and they got it, and they were so excited, and then they emailed me a couple weeks later because they'd picked up all the Sentinels, the Multiverse stuff, and they were like, this isn't quite the role-playing game, and we're really looking forward to that, but it's nice to have the card game to tide us over. So I'm very confident in the strength of this. It won't be for everyone because not every role-playing game is for everyone, and it shouldn't be for everyone, but there are a lot of people that this will be a game for them. So.
Gotcha. Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And I look forward to seeing more about this and more about the core set, or the core rulebook, because there'll be a lot more in there as well.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.